I think that for all his reputation, he's merely trying to do his civic duty. There's more to that young man than I thought, and he may merit further investigation. Quote, George Stacy. Chronologically speaking, this story takes place between Amazing Spider-Man 6 and 7, Volume 1. Untold Tales of Spider-Man, Volume 1, Issue 1. To serve and protect. Spider-Man has finally found a new costume criminal known as the Scorcher, who has been using his flame-throwing armor to steal experimental electronic designs from various research and development companies. The Scorcher is unhappy that the novice hero has come to interrupt his mission. As the wall crawler battles his new foe, the authorities and a crow gatherer below the building, thanks to the editorials of J. Jonah Jameson has written against the wall crawler, the mob begins to get upset that the web spinner is involved. Ultimately, the Scorcher manages to burn through one of Spider-Man's web lines, sending him falling to the ground below. In order to save his life, Spider-Man quickly webs up a cushion to break his fall. However, the angry mob tries to attack him, prompting the young hero to flee to the rooftops. There he discovers that the Scorcher and his army of minions have escaped in the confusion. After recovering his camera, Peter Parker pulls off his mask so he can give himself a moment to breathe. Thinking about all of his recent troubles, he wonders why this all has to happen to him. The following day, Peter goes through his daily routine fraught and his mind fraught with problems in both his personal life and his career as Spider-Man. When he wakes up in the morning, his Aunt May is worrying over the bills that have arrived in the mail. When Peter offers to do something to help, May tells her nephew that he is already spending too much time on his part-time job at the Bugle and fears that further time away from his studies will impact his grades. At school, Peter tries to keep his mind on his schoolwork. In chemistry class, Flash Thompson and his friends huddle together and make fun of Peter for being so focused on his education. Later, when Peter turns in his photos to J. Jonah Jameson, who is delighted to have pictures of the battle between Spider-Man and the Scorcher. Much to Peter's dismay, Jonah intends to use them to spin his opinion that the two were working together. The latest bit of depressing news makes Peter reflect on the direction of his life has taken. He recalls how simple things were when he was being raised by his Uncle Ben and Aunt May. His life all changed on the day he was bitten by a radioactive spider. Gaining proportionate abilities of Spider, Peter developed the identity of Spider-Man in order to make a career in show business. This came to a tragic end when Peter refused to stop a thief from getting away. That same man later murdered his Uncle Ben. This taught him that with great power comes great responsibility. And from then on, Peter used his power to fight crime. Since then, he had a number of run-ins with various supervillains. His thoughts are interrupted when Betty Brant gives Peter his check for his photos. He is about to muster up the guts to ask her on a date when J. Jonah Jameson comes bursting into the office with an idea on how to spin his recent batch of Spider-Man photos. When Jonah mentions the warrants out for Spider-Man's arrest, Peter thinks to himself that these warrants wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Jameson influencing the authorities with his negative editorials. However, this suddenly gives Peter some inspiration and tells Betty that he'll talk to her later. She is surprised when Peter suddenly kisses her on the cheek before rushing out of the office. Changing into Spider-Man, Peter swings down to the local police precinct. There, he sneaks into the office of Captain George Stacy. He tries to convince Stacy to make him an official police officer, pointing out that he had helped capture villains like the Vulture and the Sandman, and how he helped solve the Ben Parker murderer. When George points out that the wall crawler would have to go through proper channels, which includes revealing his true identity and going through the police academy, Spider-Man realized that he cannot do that for fear of what the revelation will do to his Aunt May. Without explanation, Spider-Man says he can't do that and leaps out the window. Curious about this encounter with the wall crawler, George calls his sergeant and asks him to bring the file they have on Ben Parker's murderer. As he swings away from the police station, Spider-Man thinks about how unfair the situation is. confident that he would have made a great police officer. When he returns home and shows Aunt May the check he got from the Bugle, the elderly woman is delighted by the money as it will help her make her mortgage payment for the month. Just one more little reason. They need someone like me. I don't like this, Scorcher. There's cops all over the place. How are you going to get out? Mark, you got to learn to relax. We've completed all our robberies and we're ready to hand over the schematics and cash. In. Don't worry. Everything's going according to plan. Oh, really? Am I part of your plan? How about surrender? Is that part of your scheme? Whack! Gook! Spider-Man, he got Carl. Froosh. Don't think so. Well, there's been a change of plans, big guy. You're under arrest. You're joking, Spider-Man. You may be able to dodge my flame blast for a minute or two, but I only need to hit you once. He has a point. This isn't like the rooftop last night. In an enclosed space like this, it's harder to dodge, and the heat, it's turning into an oven in here. Maybe this wasn't as good as a deer as I thought. Grab him, hold him, so the boss can finish him off. Hey, what's this? I have to stay out of the way of the flames, but your fireproof suits let you come at me from any direction? And you call that fair? I'll shut your yapping mouth, smart guy. You will? How? Like this? Whap! I've got him. Well, at least there's one thing I don't have to worry about. The evidence. In that flame-proof briefcase is perfectly safe until the battle's over. Gordon, to dispatch. Get Captain Stacy on the horn, will ya? Well, I've got a little problem here. I can't tell where anything is. The flames throwing giant, shifting shadows, the smoke over everything. It's like being in some hellish funhouse, and it gets to me. I find myself panicking, lashing out at something, until I force myself to relax, to trust my spider sense, to stop dodging and start connecting. Well, what do you know? Everyone's down for the count. It's just you and me. Come on, then. I try to take a breath and get some fresh air. It's so hot. Cuff. I've got to end this before I can't breathe at all. Come on. Hold off your Scorch. Or are you in a hurry to get your head handed to you? He's almost too hot to approach and way too hot to touch. So I make do it. Is that the best you can manage, Spider-Man? Go ahead, try again. Crap, coof, cuff, coof. It's no good. The heat's too intense, pushing me back, incinerating my webbing, smoke inhalation, getting to me. You're an idiot, Spider-Man. Everything you've done has played right into my hands. I can kill you and then just waltz out of here while the cops have to deal with the burning building. He's right. The police won't be able to chase him. They'll have to be making sure residents evacuate the area. Otherwise, once the flame reaches the chemical storage tanks on the lower floors, thousands could die. The fire's already burned through the roof, and it's spreading fast. So, what it'll be, flame broil or slow roasted? Tar, thanks. You'll already lightly seared the outside, and I properly insides raw. Can barely move. But if those tanks blow, if innocent people die, it'll be partly my fault for starting this fight. Lie down and die, Spider-Man. No, I can't let that happen. I'll pull with all my might, but my strength's almost gone. I'm praying the flames weaken the tower's support. And they have. Swoosh. Tons of water slammed down, hitting us like a sledgehammer. I duck the worst of it, but it still batters me nearly senseless. The Scorcher gets its worst through the sudden and could shatter his helmet, crack his armor. And once it's all over, instead of being celebrated as a hero, the police are upset that the Walker has interrupted their operation. As it turned out, they wanted the Scorcher to escape so they could track him to his employer. As Spider-Man's being scolded, not far from the smoking remains of the Osborn chemical plant, a mystery man holds onto the case of chemicals that the Scorcher had come to steal. Not knowing what to say, Spider-Man makes a meek apology and swings away. Although the officers are furious that the Walker is getting away, George Stacy is convinced that despite his interference, the young man is just trying to do his civic duty. Later, Peter has been brought to bed as he has developed a cold after his battle with the Scorcher. He is watching the news about Spider-Man battle. unhappy how it was received negatively by the press. That's when his Aunt May enters the room and turns off the television, suggesting that watching such violent stories will impede his recovery. As she leaves, Peter laments on how everyone is even more angry at Spider-Man than ever and wishes that, just for once, things would go his way. Notes: chronologically speaking, this story takes place between Amazing Spider-Man 6 and 7. This issue is between 6 and 7 is between the Lizard and the Return of the Vulture. Scorcher, Stephen Hudak, first appearance. Tim McGeever, first appearance. This recollection are of Spider-Man's origins as they were originally told in Amazing Fantasy 15. In the flashback, Peter pictured the Vulture, Dr. Octopus, Dr. Doom, and the Lizard, whom Spider-Man battled in Amazing Spider-Man 2, 3, 5, and 6, respectively. Thanks to Jameson's pressure in the press, the FBI and the police put out warrants for Spider-Man's arrest. That happened in Amazing Spider-Man #1. At the time of this story, Spider-Man battled the Sandman for the first time in Amazing Spider-Man 4. This would ultimately lead to George Stacy uncovering Spider-Man's secret identity, something that George kept a secret until his death in Amazing Spider-Man 90. This mystery man is revealed to be Norman Osborn in Untold Tales of Spider-Man #8. Publication note: this issue is part of a Marvel flipbook, which also contains Fantastic Four Unplugged 1. There is a message to the readers from the assistant editor, Glenn Greenberg, about Untold Tales located in what will become the letters page. This page also features cover reproductions of the next 2 issues. The next video is Untold Tales of Spider-Man, Volume 1, Issue 2, Castles in the Air. The first appearance of Batwing Jimmy. Chronologically speaking, this story takes place in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1 between 6 and 7.